Welcome to Step 6. I'm Marilyn Arnone here. In the 7-step process for instructional design for online learning, Step 6 involves choosing and most often actually developing instructional materials or learning objects. By this point, if there are others involved in the decision-making for your course or instruction, you may need to gain consensus on what you've planned to develop. You may have convinced the gatekeepers of the need for instruction in Step 1, Needs Assessment and Instructional Goals, but now that you've planned out your instructional strategy in Step 5 and are ready in Step 6 to start choosing and developing the learning objects, you may want or need to get buy-in on your planned strategy before you commit to development. After all, developing learning materials is time-intensive, and that can translate to costly. If, say, an organization is funding you to develop instruction, you want to know at this point if they're on board with the approach that you're taking. Often, creating a sample of the instruction to pilot test with actual learners is accomplished at this point, and we'll discuss that more in Step 7, Evaluation. But remember that what you evaluate in Step 7 is likely produced as part of Step 6, which brings us back to the iterative nature of instructional design. Okay, let's assume that everybody is on board with your planned instructional strategy. In Step 6, you'll use your planned instructional strategy and any feedback you may have received on a sample piece of instruction, and you'll start choosing tools and developing your materials. What kinds of learning objects or instructional materials can you consider for your online instruction? By the way, don't worry when you hear me interchange the terms learning objects and instructional materials. They mean the same in our D4L series. You have many choices for learning objects. Your recorded lecture is an obvious one. Please allow me a brief aside here on the topic of lectures. Remember, organizing your lectures into smaller chunks will sustain your learner's attention a lot better than an hour-long or even a 30-minute lengthy lecture. And attention is, as we now know, an important motivational consideration. Thank you for that aside. Other obvious learning objects include printed or downloadable printable objects, such as articles, books, handouts, graphic organizers, transcripts, and more. Videos and screencasts, podcasts, simulations, interactive role plays, synchronous and asynchronous online discussions, online quizzes and tests, and a myriad of active learning strategies. Continue the list of possibilities. But that's not all. Also consider among your learning object choices the many web tools that are available to you for promoting interaction in your students, such as collaborative writing apps, surveys, polling, mind mapping and brainstorming apps, journaling, story creation apps, visualization and drawing apps, and I could go on and on. But you will learn more about some of the possibilities in the content creation module, as well as in the social and community module. When choosing and developing learning objects, please keep several things in mind. First, choose the right tool for the job. And again, go to Bloom's Revised Taxonomy for some helpful ideas here. Provide a variety of learning objects to both sustain attention, but also to appeal to individual differences in preferences for how learners like to receive their information. Now, this gets at UDL principles, too. And finally, make them accessible. Everything you produce needs to be considered in terms of its accessibility for persons with disabilities. For example, you need to ask yourself if persons with hearing loss or visual impairments can access your materials. The video you are listening to and viewing now has been closed captioned to increase accessibility. Beneath the video, you'll also find a video transcript of everything I'm saying. By using page headings correctly, you will allow users with screen readers to jump to the sections on a web page they're interested in. Using meaningful titles and adding descriptions to images are other easy things you can do. There are a number of simple tips when writing for accessibility put forth through the W3C Web Accessibility Initiative, and you'll find a link to these on the additional resources page of this week's instruction. Plus, you'll hear more about accessibility in other modules. So, if you've done a thorough job with your planning, you're ready for step 6. And it's my favorite part.